Okay, today I'm going to be talking about the game of golf. So, the game of golf is a sport that's been around for quite a while. It's mainly played 18 holes. You can play 9 holes sometimes. And it mainly involves a ball and a hole and club. So, it's kind of like basketball, except, it's a smaller ball. You have to hit the ball actually into the hole. The rules of the game, you have to play from the tees that you choose. Most professionals and everyone else will play from further back, because it's just further away from the hole, and this in total just makes the hole harder for the strokes. So the strokes, there's 3 types of holes normally. You'll have a par 3, a par 4, or a par 5. And if you shoot, let's say 4 on a par 5, you're 1 under for that hole. And for the 18 holes, as of right now, you are 1 under because you're on pace to beat par, because par is necessarily if you're even at the end of all 18 holes, and if you are a well enough golfer, you'll be well under there, and otherwise you'll be well above. Some interesting things about golf. Golf has been around for over centuries, and even some of the golf courses today over in our friends in Europe and England and Scottsdale, especially Scotland, they have plenty of courses that have been around for over 100 years. It's just, there's a rich history in golf, and it's been the same sport. I mean, modern technology has obviously helped in the assistance of hitting the ball further, maybe like using a camera or a viewfinder to see how far you are from a hole. So modern technology has definitely helped, but the game has stayed the same for a long period of time. Just hit the ball into the hole, and that's as simple as it can, in as little strokes as you can. Some organizations within golf. So you have the PGA Tour, the European Tour, and the Web.com Tour. The PGA Tour is the main focus, not the main focus, but the biggest organization in the sport. It's been around for just over a century now, ever since the PGA was created. And the European Tour is, kind of an alternate, kind of like European basketball or soccer and everything. It's just their own kind of way of having the sport over there and having the popularity of the sport, remain as it had grown up in Europe and overall over there in England and everything. And then you have the Web.com Tour here in America. This tour is more of a minor league, if you will. It's just below the PGA, and golfers don't make quite as much, don't get recognized as much. But if you do well enough at the Web.com, you'll usually have a chance to, get a card on the PGA Tour, is how they call it. And this is, the furthest you could really make it, but doing well enough on the Web.com and well enough in your area too to get a shot at the Web.com. So just slowly making your way up there is sometimes the path some golfers take after they've been in the game for quite a while. So the competitions, the major competitions are literally called majors because there's usually 4 of them a year in the PGA Tour. And then they have a Ryder Cup and the FedEx Cup, which are just 2, focused on the standings of PGA golfers in total. But the majors of the Masters, the U.S. Open, the European Open are also known as the Open, and the PGA Championship. And these are the main focuses for golf, competition-wise, and getting to their fans, because these attract the biggest crowds there is, because they mean a lot more, because the courses they're played at are a lot harder, take a lot more skill, and usually the best golfers win there and become, legends as they are. Other tournaments, there's usually a tournament every weekend from almost all year round, because they can play down south in Phoenix and sometimes even Mexico. They can play a tournament there, and just because of the warm weather in Florida, there's year-round golf every year. And these tournaments are a lot smaller. Just the local crowds are usually go there. And then you have regional competitions. You might have smaller divisions of golf and not exactly professionals, but semi-pros, if you will, with older men or just local residents who are good enough, they're kind of in between. They're good enough to be really good playing with family members and friends, but they're not good enough to maybe make it on the Web.com, or maybe they're old enough to make it to the senior PGA Tour. just this in between just creates these regional competitions. Personalities in golf. So you have the legends of the past. Pictured here on the left, we have Tiger Woods, who's obviously most people in the golf game recognize him and his face, but a lot of people outside of it also recognize him because of what he stood for, both the African American culture in golf and golf, the game itself, because he's completely dominated the sport over the past, well, maybe not the past decade, but the 2 decades before, the 2000s and the 90s, the late 90s. And up top, we have Phil Mickelson, his enemy, if you will. They always seem to go down the wire at the biggest tournaments of these majors. And over here on the right, you have Rory McIlroy, who's one of these newcomers in golf who seem to just hit the ball 10 times further than anybody else. One other person would be Bryson DeChambeau. People will claim he might be on steroids because he can hit the ball over 350 yards off the tee box with a 48-inch driver, which has just never been heard of. So you have these new faces and some of the faces from the past, and it's kind of this in between. There's not really a whole lot of in between of really big personalities. There's just a bunch of 20 and 30-year-olds, and then Tiger and Phil and the rest of the old guys who still know what they're doing. But the newcomers will definitely take over here soon. You have Rory McIlroy, Bryson DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka, Jordan Spieth had a big year, and many others. So amateurism to professionalism. This is a bit longer road and, a career because of the fact that usually players, and this includes women and men, have to go through the colleges sometimes. And other times, if you just get through college, you might be able to, if you get through college just for the education, after college, you might be able to just start golfing and pick it up and get even better and better until you're eventually on the PGA Tour. But normally the best golfers usually, start young, like Tiger, like Phil, start young and play the respective sport that they play and play for a while. Usually going to college. Tiger had the option and actually dominated in college at Stanford, and then in turn went pro and everything. So college golf is not as big as the PGA Tour or any of that because, it's just it's a smaller sport. There's not as big of teams, and dynasties usually happen you had Yale golf in the 60s, but, college golf isn't as big as professional and not as popular just because of the lack of competition and, not as much scholarships and kids involved in the sport overall. So fans in the market, I say here that the market is aging in a way because of the fact that, golf is such an old game, but it's aging in the fact that, the same people support it all the time. And I think it's just kind of a family tradition to support golf in a way. It kind of stays in between families, but, there's this common man interest that everyone can relate to the game. I know golf is a very hard game personally, and, it can be taken advantage of through either just watching it on TV, learning from the golfers who play, and but also, how hard it is. So there's a little bit of appreciation for who actually golfs professionally because you know how hard it is at a local level just playing with your buddies or playing with your family. And some main issues in the sport. There's really a big lack of knowledge and widespread awareness of the sport overall. You have your 4 major big sports. You got football, basketball, hockey, and baseball. Golf just seems left out of there because it was obviously originally a European sport, and it's just never really truly been adopted as one of America's sports, although it's usually the most popular sport because you can play it when you're 10, you can play it when you're 60. You can play it forever, and that's what makes it really an old man's game in a way because you can play it throughout your life. Like if you stop playing football, most professional athletes go and play golf, and Michael Jordan's a big one of those. You might have seen some of that in The Last Dance, but he's a big golfer. A lot of pro athletes are not pro golfers, but they golf after their sports careers are done because it doesn't take a whole lot of skill, but it does take a whole lot of focus, and it's a really mental game. So it's good to just get out there and compete in a sport that you can do forever. A couple other issues in the sport. It's very slow in a way that 18 holes usually takes at least 3 hours. And especially these major Sundays, players will tee off at 1 o'clock and not be done till 4 or 4:30. Not just because of commercials and everything, because usually they play through it even at local or even at the majors, because of the fact that, it's such a slow game. They need to keep the pace going, and usually it's 10 minutes a hole. Another issue in golf would be, how expensive it is, as you can see in these pictures. Just showcasing, and the bottom one isn't too real, but at a local golf course, you won't see many golf carts like that. Normally that's at the country clubs. But this sport is overall expensive, and that just, is unattractive to the common man, because of the fact that it just costs so much to be able to play. I know I've gone to golf courses and it costs $24 over on East Iowa City to play at High Point. It costs like over $30 to play at Finkbine, the college course here. But it's for sure an expensive sport, and that just in turn adds to the fact that it's a hard sport. It's really hard to most people to just pick up a club and be able to hit it well enough. I mean, I know a lot of college kids, usually slice the ball, and no one can figure out why. Well, it's just hard to get a grip on the game overall and be any good at it. But the lower the score, the better, and that's just what makes the game special. But some issues in this sport, obviously, it's just slow, expensive, and overall just a hard sport to play and get a hand on. So the future of golf really has kind of the same outlook as today, just because of the fact that, the market doesn't really change as much as it does with other sports in the NBA and NFL, growing markets. And there's this overall lack of space of, you can't just keep building on golf courses. Obviously, America is just becoming more and more industrialized, and there's just less space to build these huge golf courses that are hundreds and hundreds of yards, almost, I think, like 10 miles at least at most golf courses. So just that lack of space just kind of limits how big the game can really become. And but the good part about the future in golf is that there's more and more money because of, how expensive the sport is in general. So companies like TaylorMade, Callaway, Titleist, Titleist is a big name in the overall game, but these companies just keep making more and more money because of inflation and the overall cost of the game, including clubs, balls, and then you got to buy shoes, and you got to wear a belt and a hat and a collared shirt and everything. So, just the more and more money creates this, it's obviously an issue, but the future of golf will obviously have more and more money. Some important areas of growth. Many fans feel the game, if you're not involved, it's fun to do putt-putt, as we see in the top picture. The bottom picture is a guy jumping in the air during golf. But, the game can overall become more and more fun. And I think that would help. You've seen the movie Happy Gilmore, where he makes golf fun, and you got fans with balloons and everything at the game going crazy, making noise, which has just not been the history of golf overall. Just making the game more and more fun would be beneficial for the sport overall. Just including family, not just including families, but, making it fun in a way that anyone can enjoy it. You don't have to be too good at it to have fun. Because a miserable day out on the golf course will hurt someone's mentality for sure. And that's it. Thank you.